in his nationwide broadcast on Monday, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu sought to provide answers to several questions many Nigerians has started asking in the face of economic hardship caused by recent policies of his government. Now, the president said he was aware of the hardship Nigerians were facing due to the various policy decisions of his administration. In the address, the president empathized with Nigerians and explained why his administration had to take certain hard decisions, saying it was for the greater good of the country. Now let's hear from the president himself and then head into our conversation.
The preceding administration saw this looming danger as well. Indeed, it made no provision in 2023 appropriation for subsidy.
All right, I think our technicians are trying to put
removal of this once helpful device that had transformed into a millstone around the country's neck had become inevitable. Also, the multiple exchange rate, the system that had been established became nothing but a highway of currency speculation. It diverted money that should have been used to create jobs, build factories, and businesses for millions of people. Our national wealth was doled out on favorable terms to a handful of people who had been made filthy rich simply by moving money from one hand to another. This too was extremely unfair and is not acceptable. It also compounded the threat that illicit and mass accumulation of money posed to the future of our democratic system and its economy. I had promised to reform the economy for the long-term good by fighting major imbalances that has plagued our economy. Ending the subsidy and the preferential exchange rate system were key to this fight. Our national wealth was doled out on favorable terms to a handful of people who had been made filthy rich simply by moving money from one hand to another. This too was extremely unfair and is not acceptable. It also compounded the threat that illicit and mass accumulation of money posed to the future of our democratic system and its economy. Our national wealth was doled out on favorable terms to a handful of people who had been made filthy rich simply by moving money from one hand to another. This too was extremely unfair and is not acceptable. It also compounded the threat that illicit and mass accumulation of money posed to the future of our democratic system and its economy. Our national wealth was doled out on favorable terms to a handful of people who had been made filthy rich simply by moving money from one hand to another. This too was extremely unfair and is not acceptable. It also compounded the threat that illicit and mass accumulation of money posed to the future of our democratic system and its economy.
All right, and so that's an excerpt from the president's speech yesterday. Well, we're expecting a guest, John Akerele and Victor Atewe, to join us virtually. But in-house, we have VOP in-house analyst Cyril Abaku. I had to drag him back into the studio to have this conversation with us. Cyril.
Yes, Moses.
Good morning once again.
A very good morning to you.
All right, and good morning, Esther.
Good morning, Moses.
Wait, why are you sounding really cool? Did the president's speech humble you?
Yes, I think it humbled everybody.
Okay. Now, Esther, was it what you were expecting? Let me just,
Well, I felt that was an afterthought. It is what it things. These things you talked about yesterday, the monies that you mentioned yesterday, were the things that ought to have been put down before addressing the people. So it almost feels like that it's getting to your doorstep. Akpabio had to cry yesterday and say we are not safe at the National Assembly complex. Unknown persons are coming to steal from us. So it has gotten to their doorstep, and now you know that okay, matter is very, very serious.
Now, Cyril, before the speech, you said something. We were having the conversation yesterday, and you were like, you were expecting the president to address the insecurity around Niger Republic, and other things. He didn't mention that. Yeah, that is on one side, and he talked about monies saved so far. Let's start with that, and then we'll come to the breakdown of his speech.
Well, insecurity is obviously on the rise in the country. If not anything, that same yesterday, the NSA had a meeting with the governor of the Southeast, which meant that there was an acknowledgement that such a meeting at such a level needed to take place, if only to look into the issues plaguing the Southeast in terms of insecurity. You have IPOB, ESN, the sit-at-home problem, and so on, which of course a number of governors have begun to put their feet down on the ground to say this must come to an end. We saw it happen in Enugu last week, and then of course Governor Alex Oti with what I believe is with his policy to reform the economy of Abia State and so on. So that meeting was important, right? That same yesterday, the president decorated the new service chiefs, heads of the police, the army, the navy, So clearly, the president has one eye on security. Something is being done in security, and you wouldn't be ramping up efforts in an area if there was no problem to deal with. So it means that the president clearly can relate to the fact that the nation is not as secure as it ought to be. Only was it two or 3 weeks ago, we saw the viral videos of Asai Dokbo and all these people who came out to say, now turn by turn, your turn, my turn, brandishing guns and things like that. Nobody said anything about it. But of course, what happened yesterday, and then again with what happened in Niger Republic, only last Wednesday. Am I correct now? Last Wednesday, and the fact that he has been at the head of the charge to is it to reverse the coup or to make a statement that look, West Africa has come of age and that we no longer will tolerate military interventions in the truncating democracy. So all of these are going on one hand, and I think that those are things that the president is really paying attention to minute by minute. But the other more far-reaching issues, which is the issue of the economy, I want to hope that the economy will not remain a conversation till he leaves office, because it must be fixed. You can't explain how you're fixing the economy. You can't explain the fixing. You fix it for people to know that you fixed it. It is the testimony. It is a testimony that becomes a testimonial, not your explanation, not your. So he himself in yesterday's speech did make the point that he didn't come to bore us with theories and concepts. If you listen to the speech, the beginning, his opening line, he said, but to talk to us, man to man, citizen to citizen, fellow to fellow, that sort of thing, that he had come to reach our hearts, and so he was reaching out. Whether he reached out or not effectively is another matter entirely. But the president got it right from the beginning, saying that he had not come to explore us with loads of theories and concepts. So yes, he didn't quite touch on some of those other issues of insecurity, the coup issue, which I thought he should have spoken about, because the fact is that as Nigerian president, he is more or less, he's the leader of Africa. We've always said that Africa shall be the center of Nigeria's foreign policy. We've always been Africa's big brother. We've helped to install democracy in Liberia, Sierra Leone, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Uganda, and all these places. If our neighborhood is now falling by the day, from nation to nation, falling by the day, and ECOWAS was formed by Nassim Beyadema and Yakubu Gowon. Two of them came together, Togo and Nigeria, essentially by the fulcrum for the formation of ECOWAS. So, and we have been ECOWAS's the biggest sponsor, ECOWAS's biggest member, ECOWAS's biggest voice, ECOWAS's ECOMOG. I mean, to put it that way. So if something is happening within our, I think that we should take, and the Nigerian president shouldn't think that Nigerians don't understand these dynamics. We know that the rest of the subcontinent, it depends. So for example, when we took away subsidy, look what happened. It reverberated in Cameroon, it reverberated in Benin Republic, it reverberated in all our neighboring countries' economies. So to think that we can, that the president can steer himself away from telling us about what he's doing in these places with regard to foreign policy, you know, it did this. I was hoping that I would hear him say something about what happened in Niger, because even today he's going to Niger, to Benin Republic. It is still on the same issue.
So he disappointed in that regard.
Well, he did.
Cyril, I felt like the country had gone into a state of emergency, considering what the subsidy removal had done. I actually compliment the fact that he had to address the nation. But there is something that he said that was quite vital that I expected him to have actually divulged yesterday. And I want to read it out so that you understand where I'm coming from. He talked about the fact that this group, certain group of individuals, this is what he said, this group had amassed so much wealth and power that they became a serious threat to the fairness of our economy and the integrity of our democratic governance. He said again, to be blunt, Nigeria could never become the society it was intended to be as long as such small, powerful yet unelected groups hold enormous influence. In other words, the president just outrightly told us on national television that there are indeed cabals who are in charge of governance. But the question is, you are the president of the federation. Why did you not disclose who the supposed elite of the elite are, who have been amassing so much wealth to the impoverishment of the Nigerian masses?
Well, what I expected the president, because of course, either before or after these lines, came the statement that we are losing trillions to fuel subsidy.
Yes.
If I call them the elite of the elites,
yes.
It is okay, it is good. The language is beautiful, the rhetoric, the delivery was, I mean, given that this was President Bola Tinubu, the delivery is something that even broadcasters will look at and say, wow, he did a good job. But the fact is, and mark what I say, it may come back to haunting. Because if you say there is such a brigade of economic bandits whose work is to take from the poor or from the nation to enrich themselves, and that they've done so for a long time, and that the remove subsidy was meant to put them away, put them out of their ugly business, the question is, what does the law say about economic sabotage? And why can't we not just name them, but pick them up, prosecute them, and take back what they've taken from the nation as the only known deterrent for the repetition of crime? Because the fact is that you cannot just say the cabal, the few, did so much, did so much bad. They must have names.
Exactly.
And the simple thing to do, go to the NMPs and say, who are the people that you give subsidy money to? Let us audit.
Let's look at this thing. We've had grand commanders of the Federal Republic of Nigeria from the time of Goodluck Ebele, to Buhari, and then to the president now. They have always mentioned these elite few taking Nigeria's benefiting from the subsidy, enriching themselves. Why is it that these, I started by saying grand commanders, why is it that these leaders, these grand commanders, have not been able to arrest these elite few? Could it be that these elite few are the ones controlling the government?
Well, that's a tough question, and I don't want to be pedestrian about it. But the reality is that I think when you become president or become governor or become anything, the way you see life outside of the office is never the same thing as life when you are in office. When you're in office, you begin to get intelligence reports, you begin to, the day-to-day run of government is different from when you sit outside and just be a critic. It's a whole lot. So you come into office, you begin to look at documents and begin to see things for yourself, and you are expected to take certain actions and measures that will help to bring. I think that it takes a lot more than wishing to do it, promising to do it, threatening to do it, as it is about having the will to actually
Do it.
do it. And let's take one behemoth, for example, the NNPC, which has been under investigation since 1979
To 1979.
to this day. In fact, I said on radio one time, I said, we now need to be investigating the investigations. But see, the reality is that some interests are so entrenched within the system that it will take a president who has taken an oath to die, actually, to be. Now look, you look at the fact that, like I said, you won't pick them up, you won't prosecute, you can't do anything. How then do you hope that they will not, the subsidy money are not going to invest it somewhere? What gives you that they will not regroup and go there again and take it back in, for themselves? Because they are still walking around and roaming free. But the president must be willing to go beyond himself. If you don't have that will and that courage, you saw when President Buhari at a point, we knew that he was tired of the job. He was tired. A job he had been fighting to do for 12 years, so he got fed up with it. So much so that on the inauguration ground of his successor, as soon as they saw Tinubu, he took his wife and said, let's be going. He was tired of the work. It could be like that. Under President Yaradua, we had the story of a lady who went into the president's office, was opening his file holder, and was stealing documents and photocopying and selling to a bank chief. Maybe they surround you and you never know. You may be president, but they surround you. People like this can easily infiltrate even the security agencies, and everything the president does, they know before he does it. Olusegun Antony told us a story one time in his book when he said that there was a meeting in which only he, the president, and a presidential confidant sat. Only three of them sat, and he made a comment about the former governor, and that within hours or a day, the former governor called him to warn him. Olusegun Antony, former spokesman to President Yaradua, he said in a meeting where there were only three of them in the room, the former governor called him and warned him thoroughly. So the system is infested, and that's why I said the president must be a man who puts away all personal interest and makes sure that this is the current point, with every appointment, police chief, EFCC chief, DSS chief, CBN chief, NNPC chief, put round pegs in round holes and begin. When they say that when you get the right man, the job is already half done. Make sure that they have the power to now go all out to do the job as they will do it, whether you like the way they do it or not. As far as they do it well. If you are not such a president, I don't expect you to work a miracle.
Cyril, there's something you said earlier which I want to revert to, which propels the question I want to ask. You said earlier that there's a difference between being outside governance and when you're within, because when you're within, you now have access to a lot of intelligence reports, and that is why I've been asking. All the other presidential candidates of other political parties were so staunch in their expressions of having to do something different when they assume office. And I asked the question, said, would there have been anything different they would have done that Bola Ahmed Tinubu has not done? That is the question I asked, because the thing is, you say what you say because you haven't gotten some very deep, dark secrets when you're there. It is when you get there you realize that things are beyond your purview. Could those be the things constraining the president from mentioning the supposed elites that he said are benefiting from what the masses are meant to benefit from?
So let me even start.
And secondly, is it possible that he himself, there's a possibility, just possibly, when you see somebody's hands are not entirely clean in terms of corruption free, that is why there are some things you cannot express confidently?
So let me start. I mean, you've asked almost 3 questions, but let me begin with the last one. When I watched the president's speech last night, I was telling the people sat with me, I said, subsidy was a fraud. We all agree. People are taking monies they were not giving account of. People are taking monies and just use, they were just going, tender receipt, take the money and walk away. Now, the masses are the ones who are paying the price for the crimes of those who walk free. This is a travesty of justice.
Exactly.
He shouldn't be allowed to stand.
Now we are being asked to endure.
To endure. Meanwhile, we didn't commit no crime.
Yeah.
The persons who are guilty are walking free. Should that be? It should not be. That is the first point. The other point you raised about being in power and not, you know, if you sat on the president's seat, the sort of things that begin, I mean, the sort of names that may pop up on your table
be shocking.
There was an American president. You know, the CIA briefs the American president every morning. It's called Presidential Daily Brief, PDB. It's a flat file. They bring it, open it, and say the latest things happening in the world, in Myanmar, in Israel. So the things that require, so the president can know which one is priority. So one day they told him the prime minister of one country is having an affair with with his housemaid or something. When he heard this sort of things, with the wife of one of his cabinet ministers. Sorry, but I mean it's the truth. So what did he do as president? You know, and that's why I said he must be a man who is himself above board and has an unusual willingness to confront these challenges head on. Now, what others could have done, if I was in the president's shoes, what I would have done is simple. Sack the NNPC boss.
Immediately.
You've got Emefiele to go, sack him. Sack all those that ought to be, you know, FIRS, maybe NPA. Just remove them, okay? Then get people who are extremely competent and who have the integrity, track record of integrity. Put them there. Then the NNPC, because of subsidy now, the person will be able to give us a good accounting of how much we're really spending on subsidy. We can do that in a week or a month. All right? When you have the right figures, make sure that you pay subsidy.
Make sure you pay.
You pay the right figures, pending when you've either fixed the refineries, brought in these so-called compressed gas buses. You know, so that this whole thing is planning. You look at Adolf Hitler and say he killed the Jews and so on, but Hitler was an excellent example in state planning. Even Time Magazine acknowledged the fact that he was a magnificent planner. They took the time and planned thoroughly. Chief Awolowo in 1979 drew up a plan for free education in Nigeria, how Nigerians are going to go to school free of charge from 79 to 89, 10-year plan. It's in his books. How much government was going to make from oil revenue, from oil sales. We want to put in agriculture, we want to put in healthcare. In factoring in time value of money, they have planned out the economy for 10 solid years. Why do you have things like National Rolling Plan, the National Development Plan, 10-year plan, 20-year plan? How do you think China comes to say we are going to raise 15 million, 20 millionaires in the next 10 years? It's planning. But in the president's own case, it appears he made the announcement before they now went to plan. That's why some of the figures that he even gave out yesterday, 9%. By the way, if you check the speech the president gave yesterday, it appears to me that subsidy may even come back.
No.
Or at least he made that
yes. It was there. In fact, he said they will spend 50 billion naira in conditional grant to 1 million nano businesses between now and March 2024. Then the target is to give 50,000 naira each to 1,300 business owners in each of the 774 local governments across the country. So he even went to food. There were several schemes which he mentioned. The only problem, Cyril, or the fear I'm actually having concerning this money is being rolled out is, are you going to set up a team that will monitor the disbursements of this fund, proper utilization of these funds, and then we'll see the profit or the output of these funds being channeled to all the sectors that he mentioned?
See, the thing is that now, let's even give it 6 months from now, and let's see if the president will come back to explain. You see, the thing is this: where things work, it is people that do the talking. It's testimonial, okay? A lot of times you want to buy a new mobile phone, you ask people, I need a phone that can do X, Y, Z, and they say go for this brand. Is that not the case? You know, so it's what is experience, and that's branding. It's experience. Now, 2 months after, down the line, he has come to explain to us another 2 or 3 months down the line, if you come back to explain again, if you will be explaining to us every quarter, and we cannot see for ourselves that things are truly changing. Because when I had the speech yesterday, it appeared that the president was basically rolling out policies that will help us to cope with where we are. Not, there are policies that help to beat down price of things, that they have to reverse inflation. It didn't look like what it was like saying, even if fuel now goes for 1,500 per liter, these policies will help you to be able to live with it. Not that we are going to reverse, because he didn't say anything. He didn't say anything about enabling environment for people to import fuel the way we're talking about import and sell, so that NPC can break this monopoly. And I'm not sure I had anything in that regard. So the way it's looking, like I said, we will give him this 6 months period or 1 year to see how these policies come on board. Because the fact is this, Esther, the fact is that this inflation is not going to go back anytime soon. The way I'm seeing this inflation is going to continue to be on the rise. And that being the case, 75 billion that I was telling Moses during the paper review, what is the value of 75 billion in light of inflation today? What is it going to do? You are looking at Nigerian manufacturing as a whole. And you're saying 75 billion.
Now, let me address something. So,
how much is that going to do?
Let me address something.
Moses, I'm sorry. I don't want this question to go out of my head. You recall that last month the president mentioned an emergency on food security. That was the first thing he said. He said he has put up a team. He hasn't mentioned the team. We've not heard anything about it. But in his speech yesterday, he said he knows that transportation and food are the key vital components, right, for the sustainability of production in the country. And for Nigerians to cope, it needs to be slashed. We now heard the Lagos state government slashing transportation by 50%. Okay, so that means encouraging local states to begin to do that. So he said in order to make sure that food and transportation is accessible, he mentioned that in the immediate term for staple foods being available, they have ordered the release of 200,000 metric tons of grains from strategic reserves to households across the 36 states. Recall that in Adamawa State, these, these grain reserves where, some hoodlums went into it and stole some items out of it. He understands now the emergency on food. But the question I'm asking is, how soon will he do this?
I honestly don't know, because I don't work with the president, and Esther, the reality is the situation is grim. The breaking into the Adamawa grain warehouse came 10 days after the president had spoken, and nothing had happened.
Yes.
All right. And that's why I say you must speedily and quickly make sure that the people who are manning the gates for you, from where you are to wherever action needs to take place, are the right people who, once you say what you say, are there to carry the ball and begin to play.
So apparently he spoke, but it was not carried through, and the people got tired and started leaving.
You just imagine that our president declared
emergency.
Food emergency on food, and we are still where we are. You still can't go to market, and so what then is the, because for as long as farmers are not able to go to farm, for as long as it is the rainy season for all you care. So how do you now hope that you're going? There is a whole lot that appears not to be working in favor. Yes, just looking at nature, the elements, and so on. Some things are not working the way they should. I do hope that we factor in these things. And when the president says he has ordered grains to be released, I think by this morning we should see the person who is in charge of that thing beginning to already speak and say, okay, we're moving in this direction. But where that is not the case, anything else can happen.
And when you look at that speech, the issue of grains, now he talked about households. We are still asking the question: who are the households? How will these grains get to the households? Who are these?
To identify them, yes.
How do you identify them?
So he mentioned that they were going, based on what the speech said, the breakdown. He said they will start from the local governments. That the local governments will help them disperse these things across all the various wards.
You don't mean it.
Within it was.
All right, then let's leave that. Let's go to we are saving 1 trillion naira monthly from the removal of subsidy.
400 billion.
That's what he said.
No, he said
1 trillion.
he said they've already saved 1 trillion.
We have saved 1 trillion.
1 trillion, yes.
Saying
But
subsidy removal.
Yes.
So that's like between May 29
And now?
and
That's in
July
2 months.
31. Yes.
In 2 months,
Yes, in 2 months.
roughly.
Yes, in 2 months.
So we've saved 1 trillion.
Yes.
Now the president did not say anything about fixing refineries, and we know that the reason subsidy came into play was because we don't have refineries and we have to import. How does that make you feel?
We have redundant refineries.
How does that make you feel, Cyril?
Well, it doesn't. It makes me feel like we're no closer to an actual solution. Because in all of what we are doing, government taking subsidy away, putting the money back somewhere else, it's still government money trying to solve problems. But if we had our refineries working, what was the case? We drill here, we produce here, we refine here, we purchase here, and we use it for our domestic needs. And so that way, all this talk about landing costs,
not be there.
dollar change, it will not be there. And with that alone, it means you are producing locally and consuming locally. The price is affordable. It's within reach. But the fact that the president, the refineries are what should really come as a as a permanent solution really to the problem. But he wasn't even talking about that. We are eager to hear and to see what he would say about that, because that's really fulcrum of this whole subsidy, because it was when we stopped producing fuel locally that we had to start importing, and it was importation that led to subsidy. So it is when we go back to, there's one in Kaduna, there's one in Warri, there's one in Port Harcourt, and then modern refineries also, which can also be encouraged. But we need to be sure what really is the press. Look, this is the point. The president must make sure that his policy decisions are not influenced by any other thing other than a real purposive desire to fix Nigeria as a country, as an entity. Mr. President, what's your constituency? Your constituency is Nigeria. Senator Elisha Abo's constituency is somewhere in Adamawa State. I think Adamawa North. Senator Ali Ndume's constituency is in Borno. Senator Ahmed Lawan's constituency, I think, is in Gombe or Yobe. I can't remember now. But the president's constituency is the whole of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. 36 states and the FCT. So he must come to this matter from that perspective. Anything short of that will not last, will not help. It will not help.
All right, now let's also look at the fact that the president talked about at some point he appreciated private business owners for implementing salary increase, and then he told civil servants.
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did. You didn't. Okay, and then he told civil servants in a very what I would call friendly tone. I'm a voice person, so I like the tone, the inflections in his voice. He told civil servants that your increase will come. Now, the increase will come, but then the fact remains that right now Nigerians are suffering. Nigerians are unable to feed. Nigerians are unable to transport themselves to places, workplaces, and back home. Some people are beginning to live in offices so they can attend to official work and then maybe go home during the weekend. That's the reality. Now you're telling Nigerians that Nigerians should endure. Salary increase will come. You're appreciating private business owners for what they have done. But you, the person who is in charge, who can do all, the All Almighty, hasn't done anything. You're still in talks with NLT.
Yes.
Anyway, we'll talk. If time allows us, we'll look at the letter that NLT wrote yesterday. But how do you respond to this?
No,
really?
so I think we could have done much better. Why do we need to take the whole the whole time discussing with Labour how much we want to pay, because the fact is, Labour was still in touch with federal government when the second increase in the pump price of fuel came. It was not. It means that government already has its own path clearly cut out for it. It knows where it wants to go. It knows when it will turn. And if there was, if there was going to be another increase in the price of fuel, this government already is aware. Yes. In fact, I won't be surprised if after Labour and government agree on the wage, and as soon as they want to implement it, another increase in price of fuel comes up, because government's approach has been that of to ambush the labor unions. So if you already know where you're heading, why don't you put the cards on the table at once and have this conversation once and for all? I would expect a case in which yesterday's speech, sincerely speaking, should have dropped the bomb, should have come with a bang to say, we have already agreed with Labour and the minimum wage is now going to be 100,000 naira. That sort of thing should have come, but it sadly didn't. It didn't.
But serious, 75 manufacturing enterprises will access a 75 billion naira fund, with each accessing 1 billion naira credit at 9% interest rate per annum, payable within 60 months for long-term loans and 12 months for working. So, how do you think this works within the framework of what he broke down? Well,
1 billion, and that's minus inflation. That's 1 billion. If you deduct inflation from it, all right, it means it's not 1 billion.
All right.
If you deduct how much they're going to pay on electricity tariff when the increase comes, it's not going to be 1 billion.
Okay.
When you fix in how they're going to access power, alternative power, diesel, it can't be 1 billion. If you talk about how they're going to access raw materials, perhaps overseas, it can't be 1 billion at the current dollar exchange rate. I'm telling you, in the end, Esther, I like discussing politics because of the practical nature of things in that place. The politics of importing things at your seaport
is another thing.
And the people you're going to be paying. Let me use the word paying. You settle people. In the end, how much are you going to have to do anything to bring whatever it is you want to bring in and produce? In a market when things are changing by the day, so it's not as saying. I think that the focus really should be on dealing with the systemic. Look, like I always say, people know when things are changing. You can't dip one hand in warm water, another one in cold water, and not know the difference. People know when things are changing. And that's what even encourage them to come into it. It's not what you say or what you put on offer. Do you know, even the access to the ease with which the ease of access to the facility could be another question. How to access the facility? Because the fact is, what is the fact? What are the priority sectors in manufacturing that we are even talking about here? I don't know whether your picks will be as good as mine. But when you talk about manufacturing, you're talking about specific. So what are the what's it called? What are the catchment sectors in manufacturing? Because for some weeks, for almost every week for the past 5 or 6 weeks, manufacturers have been complaining. The hike in tariffs, the hike in this, the hike in that. Bread bakers are complaining. In Rivers yesterday said that textile. So how exactly? And
some canned food items.
Yeah. So which exactly are the catchment are the key people that you want that you're focusing on? Who, when you give them what you give them, can give us results? Because you cannot postpone a man's graduation from suffering too long. People are suffering. People are in distress, are in hardships. Some even too close now, and they've increased the lending rate, and it goes back to affect the loans that they've taken from CBN. Can we write off those loans? Can we do that? If we can, I have said it before that. Look, I wouldn't even mind if the money we remove from subsidy, we put it in power. I can tell you that if you gave these people free electricity, they don't need your loan. They don't need it. They are businessmen. They don't need your loans. Once you learn that, let's look at how we can use it to offset power electricity bills for people who are owing NEPA, and say for the next 1 year, free electricity for your industries. For the next one, if you want to register any company, we'll give you the free of charge for the next 6 months. people will, people are going to rush to the CSE, and all of them are going to be value creators. Why can't you do that? In Rwanda, under 4 hours, you can do your name, you can register a name. But in our shores, it's a bit,
cumbersome.
It's totally cumbersome and difficult.
All right,
so with all of this in the picture, I have very little hope for.
We're saying something about NLC, about the president's speech as regards payment of a salary increase. Let's put up what NLC wrote. We'll look at the paragraph, the 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth
paragraph.
Yes, let's look at it. Let's go down. Yes, NLC did say, finally, we wish to... No, that's not it. That's, it says third. It starts with third. Just go up. Well, it says, third, Mr. President's statement on working with organized labor to review the national minimum wage is out of sync with what has played out since President Tinubu's removal, the so-called petrol subsidy. And then it goes on to say, in all our meetings with scheduled by the government, organized labor has been forced to negotiate with empty chairs on the federal government side, as the federal government has not matched its public promises with firm commitment to negotiate in good faith with labor. As a matter of fact, the subcommittee on wage award has not been inaugurated and has not met. What did you make of this?
I am not surprised. Ideally, what the president should have said yesterday was to give us an update of how far they had come in their negotiations with labor.
That's true.
And how close there was not. He said
nothing said in
he
that.
didn't say anything about that.
So how then do we believe that they have?
No.
Did you think the speech was already written?
No. It was not already written. Please. President Tinubu is more organized than to write a speech in a hurry. What I'm going to say is the labor unions themselves are to blame.
Okay.
At this point, I know I'm someone who I look at, when I look at the NLC president, he's a man that given his activities in the labor movement, he's a man that I respect and have a lot of regard for. But I think on this one they are getting it wrong, because the reality is that you cannot take 2 months to iron out issues. If sincerely it was important, if sincerely you meant that you wanted to get a solution to the problem, assuming it was war with a foreign aggressor, are you going to take a whole 2 months to discuss and quickly arrive at a solution? What are they discussing? Government is here. You are here to have ministers and ministries. You are here to have all of this is in place. The president has a team. What do they do today that they can't quickly say and this is the priority, because the president made the priority at the speech, said subsidy is gone. It means that from that point on, government already should have its own template of discussion, come with meet labor, harmonize these points out, and quickly make an announcement. They didn't do that. If labor has come to say that they've been talking to empty chairs, it means tomorrow's strike is inevitable. So
it's stated there.
Going to tell government that they will use 2 months to discuss, to iron out the issues. Look, labor, the most important thing that they negotiate there is minimum wage. The labor unions are not the ones who are going to provide the CNGs for us to use on the road. They are not the ones who are going to be discussing. So I wonder why they needed 2 whole months. It's like allowing government buy time, and that's what they've done. So if labor means well and is sincere and genuine in their quest to negotiate and speak for the Nigerian worker, they need to make sure that government has the right to make policy and it's up to them. But labor also has the right to negotiate the wage, and it must be a fair living minimum wage. Anything short of that will amount to industrial suicide, sincerely speaking.
All right then. This conversation will go on and on for the rest of the week, because
of course
it's a very important conversation. But we here have to draw the curtains on today's on this conversation today, as time is of the essence. So we must say thank you very much, Cyril, for staying with us on the program today. Cyril Abaku is VOP in-house public affairs analyst. Thank you once again for coming on the program.
It's a pleasure.
Let's go straight to business now, shall we? In the world of business, the Nigerian Communications Commission has proposed that the time taken to block the subscriber's identity module of a reported stolen phone should be reduced from 30 minutes to 5 minutes. Now, this was disclosed during the 3-day public inquiries of 6 regulatory instruments at the Commission in Abuja. While presenting the draft quality of service business rules, the Deputy Director, Technical Standards and Networks, Integrity Department, Edoyemi Ogo, noted that this amendment was being made. He disclosed that according to the proposed amendment, once a phone was reported and confirmed stolen, the service provider would be required to block such a line within 5 minutes. Now, he also stated that the reason for the amendment of the entire regulation was to catch up with the changes in the technological space and stay up to date with what was happening in the industry. Now, another business story here. Operators in the insurance industry have stated that Nigerians can verify the status of their motor insurance through the Nigerian Insurance Industry Database. The deputy, the NIID, which was jointly launched by the Nigerian Insurance Association and the National Insurance Commission years back, aimed to curb fake certificates in the country. The Director General, NIA, Mrs. Yetunde Ilori, while explaining the benefits of the NIID, stated that insurance gives peace of mind to the holders. The Deputy General Manager, Corporate Communications and Investor Relations, Sovereign Trust Insurance PLC, Segun Bankole, disclosed that the reason for verifying the status of the motor insurance by the policy holders was to ensure the originality of policy, so that when there was claim, a policyholder could be paid. Now, he stated further that it also saved the holder from embarrassment when stopped on the road by the law enforcement agents. All right. Excuse me. All right, so that is it with business, and we have joining us in the studio Kayla Abraham to take us into the world of sports. Good morning to you. I beg your pardon, entertainment. I was hoping you'd give entertainment and sports.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, Kayla.
Happy New Year.
Morning.
Happy New Month to you too.
Asoka, will you stand up and greet? Come here, come.
This new month we're getting we got unfortunate news. Hollywood actor Angus Cloud died at the age of 25. Yes, well, this is a very popular guy from this teen drama series that was trending last year, like summer last year. That's Euphoria. It was a very popular series both here in Nigeria and abroad, and a lot of people related to it, especially the teenagers, you know, because yes, this was their thing. This is just representing the life of teenagers and, you know, dealing with peer pressure, partying, drugs, and so much more. And he played a very, very, very vital role.
What happened?
In the he played a very vital. We don't have information on what happened, but we also got information that he lost his dad not so long ago, and that affected him, and fortunately he passed as well.
I don't understand. He lost his dad. What was there a surgery? I now see. I remember him now. Like, I remember him now.
Yes. And he's just a kid from Oakland, California. He had a great personality, great energy, you know, with his wonderful character in Euphoria, First Call. But unfortunately, he is gone. So he's very, very unfortunate. He's so rest in peace. Yeah, so moving on, we've got Baby Niger, but not the All-Stars. This is an ex-housemate from the Level Up season, Hermes. Well, he's come out to beg Big Brother to please allow him to this edition. He's begged the organizers that so it's enough now, because he has the content, he has the vibe, he has the energy. Let them get him back. Yes, they let him get him back on the show, this All-Stars edition going on right now. So yes, Hermes just came out on Instagram expressing how he's appealing to, how he's comically great to the fans, and how he does his thing. And he's just like, please, they should give him another chance. He misses Big Brother, and his show Big Brother misses him too. So yeah, that is Hermes for you. And he has just come out to tell Big Brother that let him join, and that is it.
Did you think they'll bring in more people?
Yes, I think so, because speaking of the jury that we talked about yesterday, it's actually going to be the ex-housemates represent like going to be the judges for this eviction.
But that will be where the audience is sitting.
Yeah, now they will not come into the house. So, but Henry wants to be in the house. He wants to be part of the show. So let's see if that's going to work.
Well, interesting.
Yes, so that'll be all on the entertainment. Yes.
Oh, quite a good one. Although your first story was really.
Heartbreaking.
Was heartbreaking.
But we'll move on in good spirit this new one. Yes.
Thank you, Kayla. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
All right. We're going to draw the curtain on the program this morning, on VOP this morning. I do hope that you had a great time being part of the conversation. My name is Esther Machuku. Follow us across our social media handles at VOP TV Live and our channel at Voice of the People TV.
And I'm Moses Humphrey, and do know that right here on VOP TV, you have more than a voice. All right? And let's keep our fingers crossed and see what the president and the presidency does moving forward. Because I'm interested in that.
Okay.
I'm interested in that. Have a beautiful day.
Yeah.